Right, grade 12. In this lesson, we're going to be focusing on analytical geometry and specifically looking at circles. Okay, so we're going to be focusing on the analytical geometry of circles. Now, let's start off with a circle. It's got a radius. There's a point PXY on the circle, and we have the circle that's got a center at 0, 0. The center of the circle is at 0, 0. Now, what happens is the equation of the circle, if you actually look at this, say for example, I drew a triangle here. Now, if you remember from earlier years, that would be y and that would be x. Okay, now from Pythagoras, x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. Now, you could have also used the distance formula. So you could have said, if we use the distance formula from earlier years, you could have said x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared is r squared. That length of r squared would be the distance between O and P. That's x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared. And that leads us to what we call the equation of a circle. Now, in this case, we know what we do is we call the naught a and b. So in general, it's x minus a squared plus y minus b squared is equal to r squared. The a and the b in this case would be 0, 0. Okay, x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared is r squared. This is a circle centered at the origin. Okay, but sometimes you can actually shift the circle away. The center doesn't have to be at the origin. It can move to have a center at the point A and B, which is not 0, 0. How would we get the equation there? Well, again, use the distance formula. Well, what do we know? X minus A all squared plus y minus B all squared is actually r squared. And this forms the equation of the circle where the center is A and B and the radius is obviously, this is r squared. The radius would be the square root of r squared there. Okay, and you'll notice if that is A, when you go into the equation, that becomes negative A. If that's B, that becomes negative B in the equation over there. Okay, so there it is. X minus a all squared plus y minus b all squared is r squared. Now let's go and have a look at an example. Let's have a look at an example when it says to determine the equation of the circle with center, the origin, there it is, 0, 0, and the point 4, negative 3 is a point on the circle. So if you think about it carefully, we've got a circle here. Okay, its center is at the origin, which is 0, 0 there, and it passes through the points 4, negative 3. Okay, so we know that the center is 0, 0. So how do we write that? X minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared is equal to the radius squared, the radius being that length there. Now that's a point x and y on the circle. The center is at 0, 0, so that would be, so in fact your a and your b here would in fact be the point 0, 0. Okay, that's what a and b is. So that's a and that's b. X minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared is equal to r squared there. Okay, and what we can then say is that x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared, but we need the radius. But you've got a point on, so we can sub in this point 4 and negative 3 in here. So what is the radius squared? Well, x being 4 squared, y being negative 3 squared is r squared. So 16 plus 9 is 25, and that's r squared. So the equation is x squared plus y squared is 25. The center is 0, 0, and the radius is the square root of 25, which is 5. You see that there? So watch out for that. You've got a center, which is A and B, and you've got the radius, and you've got a point. You must have a point on the circle. Then you can say x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared gives you r squared. X squared plus y squared is r squared. Plug in the 4 and the negative 3, and there you go. You get r squared is 25. The center being 0, 0, and the radius being 5. Okay, have a look at this one. What if it's not centered at the origin? Determine the equation of the circle that's got a center. Now let's just draw it. We don't have to draw a perfect picture, but we've got a center at -1, 3 there, and it passes through the point, so it's -1, it passes through the point -4, -1. So that's an x and a y on there. Okay. Great, so that's -1, 3 is the center. In other words, that is the A and the B, and there's x and y. So how do we then get the equation of this circle? Okay, determine the equation of the circle with center this -1, 3, and then we've got -4, -1 there. Okay, great. So we can say x minus a squared plus y minus b squared is equal to r squared. So the a is -1. So if that's -1, it's going to be, if you think about it, it's x minus -1 all squared plus y minus 3 all squared is r squared. Now the nice thing is this is actually x plus 1 squared plus y minus 3 squared is r squared. But have a look at this. Do you notice that the a here, if you've got, that's the a and the b. When you go into the equation, if that's a, the center, that value of a is -1, in the equation it becomes +1. If that's 3 there, it becomes -3. So it looks like there's a change of sign there, which makes sense if you look at the original equation here. So remember, if the center is -1, 3, in the equation it's x plus 1 and y minus 3. How do we then get the radius? Well, we're going to be using -4, -1. So in we go, and we plug in -4 for x. So we can say -4 plus 1 squared plus the y being -1 there. So let's put it in. -1 minus 3 all squared is r squared. Okay, so that's -3 squared plus -4 squared is r squared. So it's 9 plus 16 is once again 25 is r squared. The radius is the square root of 25, which is 5. But the center is -1 and 3. Okay, -1 and 3. Look at this equation. Compare it to this thing. X plus 1 center is -1. -3 becomes 3. The radius is the square root of that thing. But what is the equation of the circle then? It's going to be x plus 1 squared plus y minus 3 squared is the radius squared is 25. And there you've got the equation of the circle center, -1 and 3. Watch that again. It's the center is, what do we do? It's 1 there, -1, -3 there becomes 3, and the radius is the square root of that. So watch out for that. When you've got the center, doesn't have to be the origin, it can be shifted, and you've got a point on the circle, you can find the equation of the circle